Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
So Namaste Vijayji, thank you so much for spending this time with us. We are actually at the Gurukulam, and just a little note for our students who will probably be listening to you. So we are currently at the Śrī Vijay Gurukulam, and a lot of acharyas are here today. Swami Vidyatmananda ji is there, Swami Pratik Bodhanda ji is there. Of course, Pujya Swami ji is also here. We are very fortunate to have him here with us, and Śrī Vijay ji is also there, joining us from California. So.
I'm very, very happy to talk to you. This is a joy for me to see so many people are studying Vedanta, and very happy to answer any questions. So
thank you so much.
Sure.
So, my first question would really be that how you got acquainted with Vedanta, and what led you to Pujya Swamiji?
So it's interesting. I actually was born in a family in Amritsar where my grandparents were both Vedantins, but I was not interested, or they could never. My grandfather was always very frustrated, never to get me interested. But samskaras always help out on this. One of the things that I always had a lot of respect for was the Bhagavad Gita. And when I came to this country in the age of 23 as doing my master's in computer science at Berkeley, I had a fascination to learn Gita at the right time. In 1973, I heard an ad by Swami Chinmayananji about Gita Yajna in San Francisco. And he taught us the 7th chapter of the Gita. And it's interesting, before that I had read Radhakrishnan's Gita and so on. But as the students of Vedanta will know, this is what is called Paroksha Jnanam. So Paroksha Jnana means that you feel there is something here, but I'm not sure what it is. But it takes a live teacher who has the Aparoksha knowledge, that vision, to be able to communicate that. And so really I would say the second or third lecture by discourse by Swami Chinmayananji, just I could see, my God, this is who I am. I cannot believe the possibility of that. And so I was just smitten by it. My life changed, and I followed Swami Chinmayananji for 2 years with all of his various lectures and so on. And then, as Ishvara would have it, he could not make his journey one time because of some passport problems with Sanjay Gandhi. And so at the last minute, he sent Swami Dayanandji there. And initially, I must say, we were somewhat disappointed because we thought that our Guru, Swami Chinmayananji, is not here. But Ishvara has his own way of kind of looking at things. The very first time I saw Swamiji in 1975, his first visit to the US, and then 75 or 76, I said, this is my Guru. And he answered all my questions, and his way of communicating his name, Dayanandji, Swami Chinmayanand, did such a good job. He was really a wonderful teacher for us. And so from that point on, I resolved that that becomes my main focus. I was working for Hewlett-Packard as a marketing manager, and I'm very happy that my wife also consented to stay with me for 2.5 years, and we went through a complete 2.5-year course in Piercy, and then it was a matter of just understanding. And then in the year 2000, I took early retirement as soon as I thought I had enough money to take care of the family. So I retired, and I'm now teaching full-time to the students. So that's how the background is.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So you mentioned studying at PUC, and this is where Pujya Swamiji established the first resident course?
Yes, that's exactly right. So there were 60 of us, and There's 4 or 5 people from the batch here today. Soumya is here, and Deshpandes are here. And it was a magical time because we had Swamiji with us full time, and it was away from a town, so that there was not a lot of traffic. It was also difficult because we did all of the work ourselves, cleaning, cooking, everything, but it was joyful. And my 2 children were with us, 4 and 10. And we also did a very intensive introduction to Sanskritam, Panini. So we went through the entire Prasthana Traya, the major Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, and also Brahma Sutra, the 4 first sutras of it. So we got a good grounding on that. So it was wonderful.
Wonderful. And this was when, so once, could you tell us a little bit more about how the Śrī Vijay Gurukulam was established and what was your role and the initial students who
Thank you so much. Yes. So at that time, we were, of course, busy completing the course. And for me, I had promised my family that I would not take sannyasa, that I will come back and stay with the family. And so for me, I had to go back my job. But we wanted to establish a full-time ashram. By that time, we had already become separated from the Chinmaya mission. And so we wanted to have something of our own. West Coast was too expensive. We could not really find something. We looked for it, but we could not find. So when this place was chosen, we could afford it. I believe it was like, I can't believe it was like $250,000 for the whole place.
Unimaginable.
But then a lot of blood, sweat, and tears went through Paul and Ellen, and so many people put in so much effort, winterized it. We should have a history of what this place used to look like.
Yeah, if you could actually tell us just a brief overview of that.
Well, it was basically a summer camp for children. And so, really speaking, it was not meant to be lived in the wintertime. And the pipes were not even underground. They were all exposed to the elements because water was just shut off during the wintertime. And this was the place that just had a few buildings. And Swamiji used to have his classes in that Ganga over there. And I think they were like maybe 25, 30 students. We all used to live in a small room. And if there was an overflow, there was a staircase and people would be sitting on the staircase. And then slowly, I think it just started to build up. This has a wonderful community of people around Philadelphia, New York, and other places. And so it started to grow. And then the first course was established. So it just grew organically, one step at a time. And in a way, we were happy. In a way, we were unhappy on the West Coast because all of the center of learning and meeting and gathering together moved to the East Coast. But then we were happy that there is a place like this. Swamiji, I was very fortunate that when we formed the Śrī Vijay Gurukulam and Śrī Vijay Peetham, he formed a board of directors, and he asked me to be the secretary. I was very, very honored for that. So for the first few years, I was very active. But then as the center of gravity shifted to this ashram, and I could not attend all the meetings and so on, so I gradually withdrew from the active participation. But then it was a happy thing because it was well taken care of in this area. So that's how it all began.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And the beginnings of this ashram, they were probably small, right? When you started in 1985, and then did it grow mainly through word of mouth, or?
Yes, it did. Of course, I think that if you look at where the Śrī Vijay Peetham's strengths are, it is in teaching. And if you look at all of the teachers that we have had, it is not in propagating the knowledge through a variety of different things. I'm making a slight distinction between other organizations like Ramakrishna Mission, Vedanta centers, even Chinmaya Mission to a certain extent, because I think their strength is organization and teaching it to a variety of students, including children. They have done a very good job on the children. Arshavidya Gurukulam and the Pitham, I think, had a focus on teaching Guru Shishya connections, live teaching. And even from the very beginning, Swami Dayanandji has emphasized that you please have your own students and you communicate with them, establish a certain connection with them through the vision, and don't look upon this as an organization per se. And I've always followed that model. I mean, in some ways, the students that I have, they have never even met Swamiji. And amazingly enough, they don't want to. I ask them to come here, but they say, no, we are happy what you're teaching us. That's enough. So it's a very funny situation that really they are my students. They are not Swamiji's students. And I would like them to really experience, and some of them do. Now, I have about maybe 20-30% of the students that come here. But what I'm saying is this. Our strength is growing organically with one person at a time through word of mouth. Yes, absolutely. We hardly do any advertising. And so that's how it is. Swami Tattvavidananda ji, when they both visit, Swami Viditatmananda ji and Swami Tattvavidananda ji both come. There are some common people, but they attract slightly different types of people depending on their choices and styles and so on. And this is the way it should be. This is not a separate thing that everybody comes in to listen to everyone. Whoever you find who touches you is really the teacher that you should have. So this is how this place grew. One teacher at a time, one student at a time. And of course, Swamiji is a very special person. So I have not seen in my lifetime, I'm in my 70s, any teacher who has the ability of not only knowing what he does, but communicating it to people. And we've learned a lot from him. There's not too many teachers like that. He says that it is all about holding people's minds in your hand and they're seeing what you are seeing at the same time. This is a remarkable ability and something that I don't know how the great other teachers were like Vivekanandji and so on and so forth. But this is something that we have experienced in our life, which is amazing. Swami Chinmanji as well, but Swami Dayanandji is, I think, who we studied with all these years. His ability to communicate the vision is something that you don't see, So whenever he is here, of course, he has expanded the teaching tremendously, and so very happy to see where it is now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He's one of the finest teachers we have today. He's in many ways a Yuga Purusha. So we are all
Absolutely.
very grateful to be here. And there are a lot of his teachings available. There are so many teachers as he's created
Yes.
around the world who are sharing and imparting knowledge to their own students,
Yes.
like yourself. So could you actually share a few personal experiences with Pujya Swamiji that you may have shared during your time with him?
So many of them. I think the most interesting thing was that when I became a student of his and a very dedicated student, it really changed my whole, and I was doing well in my job with Hewlett Packard and so on. But at the same time, when I met Swamiji, that became my main focus, nothing else. And now it was a matter of how do I get my family to also participate in this. And my wife was a key person. So I talked to Swamiji once about it. I said, Swamiji, I want to really come and study with you full time, but I have a family, and how should I do that? So he says, well, why don't you bring your wife over to for an interview, and we will talk about it and so on.
Yeah.
So this is about 4 months before the PRC course began. And I had not told my wife Pammi about what my intentions were. But I said, whatever Ishvara wants, it'll be fine with me. So we went there. And so Swamiji said, so what do you want to do? So I said, Swamiji, I would like to study full time with you. And so my wife was sitting there. She had this expression on her face and saying, what? What is he going to do? So Swamiji was very patient. And so he said, so what's your financial situation? So we said, Swamiji, I think we'll be okay. We can rent our house and have enough money. So then he turned to my wife and said, well, what do you think? And she said, Swamiji, I'm confused because I know that he's interested, but to completely give up the job at this time, he's in the top of his career and so on. How is that going to happen? And what will happen? So then he looked to both of us, and then he said, you know what? I don't find this dedication that often. He says many people are interested in taking a class here and there, but to have this kind of a dedication is something very unusual, and it is given by Ishvara. And this chance you should not give up. So my recommendation is that go with what he wants to do and so on, but it's really up to you. So I was thinking, all right, after this, then we'll go home and talk about it and so on. Lo and behold, my wife, so Swamiji turned to her and said, well, what do you think? She says, okay, Swamiji, all done. I was shocked, really. And she ended up enjoying the 2 years a lot. She made so many friends and attended classes and so on. So that was one thing that Swamiji, as a person who was, was able to make decisions for us in a very pleasant manner. This was so wonderful. I think the other interesting thing was how interested he was in sports. And how much time we spent in discussing sports after all the classes were over. At night time, we used to sit right next to him. And that time, he was most interested in tennis. And the most interesting thing was his favorite tennis player was Jimmy Connors. And we used to not like Jimmy Connors as a person. We said, he is too extreme of a person. Swamiji says, I like his dedication. So we used to argue about that and so on and so forth. Of course, cricket we used to discuss a lot. He used to play cricket with us.
Wow.
I think I have some pictures. The videos were not there at that time. But my kids really enjoyed playing cricket with him. And we're very lucky that we were with him 24 hours a day for 2 years.
Brilliant.
And then he encouraged us to visit India and visit all the temples. And he arranged for us to stay with many of his students in India. And we did that. There's so many pleasant memories with Swamiji. So wonderful.
This would, the experiences themselves would take up a couple of sessions.
Yes, indeed.
So, would you like to share just one or two more?
No, I think that from a personal standpoint, I think that Swamiji was very, very supportive and very helpful. It's so interesting looking at Swami Chinmayananji and Swami Dayanandji, how they would have. I always looked at Swami Chinmayananji as a father figure and Swami Dayanandji as a mother figure. I remember one incident that was very useful in looking at the two personalities, and both of them are very, very knowledgeable. So one time there was a class given by Swami Chinmayananji, and this was in University of Santa Cruz. Not a class, actually, it was a public discourse, and there must have been 200-300 people. About 15 minutes after the talk began, there was a gentleman, kind of like a young hippie, who walks in to the and keeps looking for a right place to sit down, and walks all the way up from the back of the room to the front. And Swami Chinmanan finally tried to ignore him for a while, but finally he stopped and looked at him and became quiet. The whole thing was, and he was finally embarrassed, and he sat down, and so on and so forth. Now, my feeling is that it's not as though Swamiji was disturbed, but he just wanted to teach discipline, that you don't do things like this. You have 400 people, 300 or 400 people listening, and so on. Then the same thing happened with Swami Dayanandji. In fact, a couple of times I remember this. And what Swami Dayanandji would do is completely ignore it. He would not really stop. He was not even aware of the fact that there is a person who is, quote unquote, misbehaving by disturbing. And I thought of what a great mother figure that is. Because this is what happens in families also. I have two grown sons, and whenever they do something not right, I would really be the disciplinarian and say, this is not right. You should. My mother would ignore it. These are kids. That's how they do it. It's all right. And I learned a great lesson from it. Even in my classes, do you know something? Even to this day, I never tell people to turn off their cell phones. If there are cell phones working, it's up to them. If they don't have the discipline, let them figure it out on their own. People come in late, people come in early, and so on. And I don't know about the others, but I, as a teacher, have learned to just be oblivious of these disturbances. I learned that from Swamiji. What a great teacher he was in terms of the way to communicate, the way to behave, the way to bring up the students together, and so on. So that was another thing that I think.
So, Vijay, could you also tell us more about how Arsha Vidya Center came about?
So I think that was a natural thing because I've been teaching at my home for the last 30, 40 years. But then the number of people began to grow, and so I thought we would rent a place. And I asked Puja Swamiji whether I should really start a center with owning it, and he said no. He said the amount of energies it takes to run a place like this distracts you. So as long as you have a place that you can live in, just rent it, that's enough. So we just have just a logical center. We don't have a physical center. Where we miss is in special occasions like pujas and so on. So there we like to have, but we do it. We have Mahashivaratri. Next week we are going to do Guru Purnima, for example. So we just rent a small place and then we get together for that. But other than that, we actually meet at the Jain temple. And even though the Jain and the Hindu traditions are slightly different, but it doesn't matter. It's a very holy place, very clean place, and we love it. So we have a very good relationship, and we hold classes. They also have a big hall for about 300-400 people. So when the big Swamijis come, Swami Vidyatatmananda was just here recently. We had a huge audience and so on. But for my classes, I have one class which is quite big. My Gita class is about 90 to 100 people.
Wow.
And so there we are a little bit tight, but we are managing it. So let's see how we go.
Great, wonderful.
Yeah.
And, I've also seen some of the videos that Swami Vedanta ji with
Yes.
that was there from your website. So
Yes.
you're doing a fantastic service to the
Thank
entire
you.
lineage, to the parampara.
Thank you.
And we are all very grateful for you just being there. So I wish we had more time and a few more days to continue this conversation. But for now, thank you very much, and we all seek your
Appreciate it.
blessings and inspiration to
Of
continue
course.
on
No, I'm very
Vedanta.
happy that you are you are connected logically, if not physically, and I'm very happy to really know all of you. And so, my best wishes for continued and dedicated study. That's what it really takes. So
Thank you so
wonderful.
much.
Okay.
Namaste. Hari
Namaste.
Om.
Hari Om.